Hello, welcome to the Mandela Effect equals knowledge. My name is Dale DuFay. I'm going to talk about, well, first of all, I want to mention that I apologize for no comments. I want to be able to express my feelings and what I'm experiencing and what I'm getting out of the Mandela Effect without anybody making digs about put the bong down, what kind of acid are you on, things like that. After 3 years, it gets tiring. Not to mention the other stuff that goes along with it, people leaving links to porn sites, date sites, I mean, you name it. And the hate is relentless. I've even had people wishing I was dead. So I should be able to express my opinions about this without having to worry about that nonsense. That's what I'm going to do because the bottom line is I'm just doing this for my own therapy so I can, because there's nobody to talk to about all this. And what the Mandela effect is revealing, in my opinion, is remarkable. And it seems like everyone is more leaning towards the sinister aspect of the Mandela effect. They don't seem to see the fact that this is obviously something that only this creator of the human soul can do and manipulate, allowing our soul portions to coalesce into other replica versions of ourselves that have always existed in these realities. Now, you look at these realities and you say, you know, where are they? They're in the Milky Way galaxy. It's as simple as that. There's plenty of room for billions of realities with billions of Earths with us on them. That we don't need other dimensions. I mean, people get this all confused with the parallel universe theory or the multiverse theory. And those theories say that our realities are in other dimensions, and they're not. In the parallel universe theory, it even says that in those other dimensions, all the decisions you could have made are made, and therefore making each reality totally different because of different decisions you made throughout your whole life. Now, we know that that would be impossible because our parents could have made decisions where we wouldn't even exist, or our grandparents or great grandparents, or you can go on and on. And obviously, at least in my case, I know my case isn't typical, but every time I'm in another reality that I have always existed in, I see that this replica version of myself, or whatever replica version of myself at any particular time in any particular reality, has made the exact same decisions. So what is that telling us? It's saying that the parallel universe theory is wrong. I mean, obviously they have math that seems to indicate that there are multiple realities, and they just assume it's in a it's in another dimension. It's weird. To me, it's weird. To me, it was real obvious that it's all in the same dimension. But apparently, people get really offended by that and don't seem to understand that. The thing is, too, is everybody bases their opinion on something that we've been taught our whole life that there's only one Earth in the universe, and we're the only living beings on this Earth with intelligence. So everybody bases their decisions on that. It just they just don't seem to want to let go of the fact that it's a distance that separates our reality, not dimensions. In fact, the distance separating our realities is a lot more plausible than dimensions separating our realities. And we have science to back us. Science is finding out that quantum entanglement is out there, and they're still working and experimenting on atoms with quantum entanglement and protons and things like that. But they have come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter how far apart they are; they could be spanning the universe. These atoms that they split, and they're both going to react identically to one another. They, but they still don't seem to make that connection that, well, obviously we're all made up of atoms. So that means we are experiencing that quantum entanglement as human beings, as all life is. Every because we could say that with confidence simply because every time we find ourselves in another reality, inside of another replica version of ourselves that's been sharing our soul since the day we were born, that everything, all life is virtually the same. Your pets and things like that, of course, there are going to be variations and differences. That's the thing that's confusing. They're not always variations and differences in everything, just some things. But for the most part, 99% of everything is identical. Of course, the Earths are very, I mean, these dwarf Earths compared to the Sagittarius super Earths, there's a remarkable difference. So there's geographic variations and differences that'll affect decisions and things like battles during wars and whatnot because of the geography being different. There's time zone differences. There's some, like South America, spans 4 different time zones within their realities. So there's going to be variations and differences there, but for the most part, everything is virtually identical. And that's what's really confusing about all this. If we were experiencing multiple realities in different dimensions, it would be entirely different. In fact, the Mandela Effect is revealing that not only our tangible reality has a parallel existence, but that life or whatever beings and things, or the basically that all the other dimensions are parallel as well. They're not part of the parallel scheme, they are parallel, just like it is in the tangible reality. The intangible realities are parallel as well. And we know this because every reality we're in has those different dimensions. It's like we came from a different dimension and we're in this dimension. It's always the same dimension. And again, it's distance that separates it. It's important to realize that because it makes so much more sense. And what science is realizing, this quantum entanglement, it makes so much sense that basically we, this quantum entanglement is the basic fundamental foundation of existence. We wouldn't be able to breathe without it. We wouldn't be able to walk without it, because there are multiple replica versions of yourselves in their realities doing the exact same thing you are. Maybe slightly ahead, maybe slightly behind. I always liken it to a roll of film. Each frame in the film is a separate reality that you exist in, but yet each reality is fiercely independent, and each reality has you in it with your soul. I mean, so what does that tell us? That tells us our soul is splintered and fractured. That couldn't happen in a multi-dimension or a multiverse. It makes more sense that it's all in this one dimension, in this one tangible Milky Way galaxy that is teeming with Earths, apparently. And we can say this with confidence because we know that many of us originated from the outer reaches of the Sagittarius arm. In my case, that's 75,000 light years away. That's amazing. But again, science is proving that it doesn't matter how far apart our realities are. Well, of course, they're not saying our realities, they're talking about quantum entanglement. But it's quite obvious that that's what the Mandela Effect's revealing. It doesn't matter. But the thing is each reality is still separated by light years. We'll never be able to run into each other. We'd be more apt to run into another reality if they were dimensional. But the quantum entanglement prohibits that, and for good reason. Because it would, it would be very strange to try and go visit another reality some light years away. And even if you did, you'd wind up there and it'd be virtually the same. And the replica version of yourself you're dying to meet isn't going to be there because they did the exact same thing you did, going to search for your other self light years away. And then they'll basically be just trading places. But that's essentially what's happening in a spirit sense, as far as our soul. And our soul, is obviously very spiritual, and it is splintered and fractured. So is the different dimensions. Now think about it. It's not, I can't say it enough. It's distance that separates our reality. It makes so much sense, not dimensions. Again, I always have to say this because when I took comments, those haters would try, Well, you saying there's not other dimensions, you dummy, and things like that. Of course, there are other dimensions, and they are parallel too. And we know this because, again, the reason I say we know this is because it's so obvious. Once you start eliminating the things that are impossible, the obvious, you know, is left. It might be improbable, but that's all that's left. And it starts making sense, because if we know that heaven is parallel simply because of Nelson Mandela. We know he perished in some realities. So what happened to his soul in those realities? It was resided, or in that place, heaven, if you will, until the other portions of his soul were released from the replica versions of himself that survived prison and was liberated from prison and ascended to presidency of South Africa. So we know that couldn't have been dimensional because there would have been too much, and it's just to me, it's just very obvious. And I can go on with reasons why. And many times I always say this, it's like, we can't be barking up the wrong tree. We can't overcomplicate this. We got to look at it for what it is. I mean, again, it's improbable that we have multiple realities in other dimensions, but it's less probable, even though it's improbable, that we have multiple realities in one dimension, in this dimension. And it's so easy to come to that conclusion because, again, we came from a entirely different sector of the galaxy, uh, where we didn't even think life could exist this close to the galactic center. But here we are, and we've been here all along in the same Milky Way galaxy. It just looks different because the astrophysicists and the artists who draw the Milky Way galaxy with the data they can get have a very limited view of the galaxy as compared to the replica versions of themselves that have been sharing their soul do on the outer reaches, where they did have a clear view. They do have a clear view. They're oblivious to that, but they're able to make educated guesses in these realities. So it's not a dimensional thing, because if it was dimensional, our realities would be in the same location in the Milky Way galaxy. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be 70,000 light years from where you recall the solar system being in the Milky Way galaxy. Why would that be? So the fact that we are in a completely different sector of the same galaxy, that there alone proves that we're in the same dimension. Now, getting back to the parallel universe theory, I always was a believer in that theory before I was affected with the Mandela effect. But this quantum shifting we're doing is proving otherwise. Because again, that was one of the key things in the parallel universe theory is that every decision we can make, we will make. That one always intrigued me as well. Again, I believed in it thoroughly because I knew there had to be more to life than what we were taught. So, with that in mind, I very quickly, that's the first thing I noticed is, wow, I can see where the math is correct with the parallel universe theory, but they're wrong about the every decision you can make, you will make. They were totally wrong about that, at least certainly in my case. And again, I know my case is not typical. Again, I'd like just being able to talk freely without worrying about the hate comments. Now, I know there's a lot of you out there that have very, very good comments. 90% of you do, and I really appreciated that. But I have to not have comments anymore. I tried it I thought, oh, good, I think I'm ready for it. And right off the bat, you know what I mean? I got this tactless comment from a person who had a different view. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't make me look like I'm the idiot. I mean, they actually go right out and say, you're wrong, about this. Well, how do you know I'm wrong about that? You know what I mean? It just gets so tired of it. So I'm talking freely here. And I'm showing an image of an infinity mirror. This is a good example. It's displaying our multiple realities in one dimension, in a sense, or illustrating. Obviously, it's an illustration. It's not a reality. As far as our realities are separated by distance, great distances. The nearest star to our sun, which is also a star, obviously, is 4 light years from here. That's 24 trillion plus miles. So if there is an Earth orbiting that star with its companion planets, very similar to our solar system, there's going to be variations and differences. The bigger the scale, the more variations and differences there are, like the solar system, like the fact that Mars has polar ice caps in this reality in this solar system, and it doesn't in the solar system I recall. But that, it's basically that distance is inconceivably vast, but yet we're out there. We know we are. And science is saying that we can be with this quantum entanglement. We don't need to have separate, because again, if we did have realities in different dimensions, then we would know what all the different dimensions are about. But we don't. That is the other dimensions are where that spirit realm is, and it too is parallel because they're there at every reality. And by they, I mean those who claim they're aliens from another planet. The Mandela Effect's proving that to be incorrect. They're obviously from that other dimension and able to materialize into this dimension like they have been since the very beginning of creation. And they'll lie to you and say that they came from the Pleiades or they came from the Orion. But what they fail to tell you is that you are there too. Because if they told you that, then it would just say, well, wait a minute, then there's not another planet out there. There's another Earth out there with us on it and life on it as we know it. So that's, it's things like that that help prove that this is a one single tangible reality that this is happening in. The reality of the entire Milky Way galaxy, where there is an excess space of upwards to 500 billion planets. How many billions of those are Earths, with us on them? We don't need the other dimensions. The other dimensions are there for those beings, and there's good and bad there as well. Of course, they're going to say they're coming from another planet. They don't want you to know that you came from there as well. That too proves that they had nothing to do with the Mandela Effect. Because believe me, they do not want us to know what the Mandela Effect is revealing. So they're going to do the best they can to steer people away, and that seems to be very successful. It's unfortunate that the flat earth theory is associated with the Mandela Effect. It's very unfortunate. And I'm sure that that was exact intention that they had. And by they, I mean, again, those from the other dimensions, or basically the deep state, the gatekeepers, whatever you want to call them. They are non-human entities. They do exist, and they are running the show here. And that, to me, that's like, wow, why is everybody making all this fuss over us human beings? That's because the Mandela Effect is revealing that we are, without a doubt, the pinnacle of creation in the Milky Way galaxy, human beings. That's what this is all about. It's not revealing that we have multiple realities in other dimensions. It's revealing that we have multiple realities in this one tangible dimension. It's as simple as that. And again, it's more plausible than the other dimensions, because when we're in these realities, we can't enter those other dimensions. Sometimes we can if we take something to stimulate that aswan and things like that. We can go there. But again, every replica version of ourselves, if we are doing that, is doing the same thing in their reality. That also has the different dimensions that they are exploring. So that proves without a doubt that the other dimensions are parallel as well, separate from our dimension. This whole frequency band is parallel. And everything, we just have a little sliver in that band in this tangible reality, but the other, realities, the other dimensions are parallel as well. Now, if they weren't parallel, then it would make sense, but they are parallel. But we know this again simply because in every reality we're visiting or allowed to visit has the other dimensions as well, the other same stories, the other so called aliens from another planet. Every reality has all that. Every reality that that we've always been in is exactly the same, even as in regards to that. The fallen angels, things like that, they all came from that spirit realm and they were able to materialize into this reality, much like we can go into theirs. But again, that happened in every single tangible reality that we have always existed in. So it's not a dimensional thing. It's a one dimensional thing. It's incredible. But the Mandela effect's revealing that it's essential as well. I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense. There's so many things I've always wondered about my entire life that are being answered. Can't say that enough. Again, I'm going to be repeating myself from time to time, and I can do it with comfort because I don't have to worry about people saying that they've heard that before and this and that. It seems like people don't have appreciation for at least someone trying to make an effort. I mean, and it's always the people that have no content, no books, no videos, no anything that are out there making all the criticisms. I mean, it's easy for them. Of course, they're not going to have their own channel because they would be subject to their criticism themselves. So that's the thing. At least give someone an A for effort, right? But I can't allow comments no more. I don't think I ever will. And it doesn't, it's not going to bother me. Let's put it that way. It can't because initially it did because I always look at how I would feel. And I knew I always, never did like channels that didn't have comments available. So I know where you're coming from if you feel otherwise, but I'm not going to, defend myself anymore about it. I'm just not going to do it because I want to talk freely about what is very obvious. You can't, again, you have to you have to look at it. You have to remove everything that is impossible, like the fact that, that's not a multidimensional thing. That's impossible. In circumference overnight. Our bodies are not going to change overnight. These things are impossible. So the only explanation is it's just different. You're in a different reality, and it's obviously in the same dimension because everything's identical for the most part. Even though the Earth is a different size, even though there are variations and differences, which personally I've come to expect. I actually look for some. I actually anticipate some. Like this would no doubt change, or be different, or would appear to be changed. I mean, literally, we got to get that change out of our vocabulary when it comes to the Mandela effect, because even I catch myself saying it, because obviously they did change in our mind, but it isn't changing. It's impossible. It's just different, literally, and that's what's so cool about the Mandela effect. It's revealing that, man, we are not only the pinnacle of creation, but we have this parallel existence, and our incredible human soul is splintered and fractured. And each portion of our splintered and fractured soul is in a replica version of yourself throughout, in a different sector of the galaxy, a different region. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of Earths in this sector. That's another reason. We know that there's some as close as 3-4 light years from here, is because there's a whole bunch of Orion dwarf Earths, I call them, in this sector of the galaxy, this close to the galactic center, on the Orion spur or Orion inner arm of the Milky Way galaxy, depending on what reality you're in. It's just amazing. But the Orion spur and the Orion inner arm are the same as the Sagittarius arm. They're all one and the same. It's just fascinating what the Mandela effect's revealing. That has always been like this. The dinosaurs even had a parallel existence. Why would they have a parallel existence in different dimensions? It wouldn't be necessary. Uh, but we know the dinosaurs had a parallel existence simply because the same fossil records are on every single Earth. I always use a Tyrannosaurus Rex Sioux that's housed in the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago. Now that's Sioux, that Tyrannosaurus Rex, albeit different from reality to reality in some cases drastically, but it's still the same Tyrannosaurus Rex named Sioux in every reality. It lived its life in every reality on every Earth. It still might have been different. Apparently, our bodies are built to suit the Earth they were created on. Same's true with the dinosaurs. So there's going to be differences in the bones, and of course uh, you know, the archaeologists and paleontologists, they take the bones and they paint them. And I noticed they use a patina color here. And I remember vividly that Sioux, in the reality where I originated from, or this portion of my soul originated from, the bones were white as can be, along with all the other dinosaur bones in the exhibits in the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago. But here, in this reality, they're all patinaed and almost like a brown, like you'd expect them to be. So there's variations and differences like that, but other than that, it's the same dinosaur. So they had a parallel existence. Why would they have a parallel existence in different dimensions? To what end? I ask. There's no dinosaurs in the other dimensions. I mean, there never were. They don't need to be. There's plenty. Again, there's plenty of room for this quantum entanglement to occur in this Milky Way galaxy. I mean, it's 200,000 light years across, and there's conservative estimates that there could be 500 billion planets with a B. Of course, there's upwards of 7, 8, 9 planets around each sun. So of course you got to divide that 500 billion by 7, and then that might be how many Earths are in the Milky Way galaxy. And again, we know that because everything is parallel, there are other galaxies in this dimension that no doubt the galaxies are parallel as well. So in other words, there's plenty of room in this universe for all this to happen in one dimension. So again, it's that opposition, the gatekeepers, and the people who started the psychological operation known as the flat Earth theory. That's what they want us to think. They don't want us to know that this quantum entanglement is essential because it gives us more, and it's very empowering once you know that. In many ways, in every way. So they don't want everybody to wake up and come to that conclusion. They want us to just mire around and say we're in other dimensions and bark up the wrong tree and take creation out of the equation as much as possible. Believe me, once you do that, you're just going to hit a brick wall and run into stumbling blocks. And that's exactly what they being the gatekeepers, want. Believe me, they do not want us to figure this thing out. But it's there and it's happening for a reason, to allow us to figure it out. Of course, it's a big giant riddle, but nothing should come easy. You need to, if you're going to be negative and pessimistic and angry and homesick and everything and all involved, then you're not going to get any answers. But once you realize where the source of this is all coming from, again, it's coming from the creator of the human souls. Only the creator of the human soul can manipulate our soul into that quantum. I think it's the actual think it's the superposition that they conduct and test when there's an indecision. There would basically not be an observed when the protons in their experiments do whatever they want. Basically, that's what's happening with us. Is like America, like a musical chairs. The chair represents the reality, and us getting up off the chairs when we're in that superposition and the music starts. And when the music stops, the superposition stops, and we sit into another chair, which represents another reality. That's what's happening. And only the creator of the soul can do that. Of course, that just that alone proves that the well, whoever you want to call them, a lot of people are blaming CERN. I mean, come on. I mean, I did myself. I shouldn't criticize anyone who still thinks that way. It's understandable. I know I did, but we have to stop pointing fingers. And then, because once you're doing that, you're not going to understand or get the riddle at all. It's meant to be difficult, but once you figure the riddle out, then everything becomes crystal clear. And it's intended to be that way. Because if it was all crystal clear, then that opposition force that wants to confuse us would cry foul play, that it's unfair that we're being shown or totally told what's going on. And then you always have to be worried about those who claim they are being told from God. Believe me, that is one big red flag. There is no way that's going to happen simply because of that reason. Because if the good side was to come down and tell us what's going on and please tell everybody, blah, 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 then the opposition, because you got to look at this like a court case, then the opposition or the defense is going to cry foul, or the prosecutor, whatever, is going to cry foul. That's not fair. That's inadmissible. So there's no way anybody's going to be told. We're being shown. If we open up our eyes, it's right there in front of us. And what better way to be taught than to be shown? But it is difficult. That way the opposition can't cry foul. And of course, if someone does claim that they are being told by God that this is what's happening, believe you me, they are being deceived, because that opposition is allowed to come and influence us as much as they can, with certain limitations. Of course, the good side could cry foul, but they're not. They don't need to. And they're not going to help us because they don't need to. Again, if they did, then it would be unfair. And this whole thing is about fairness. Again, it's like a court trial. And the Mandela Effect is telling me that the court's adjourned and the jury is out. So, that's the way we have to look at this. And I know that there's people out there that are going to hate to hear it. It seems like people want to hear nothing but negativity and bad things, and at the end of the world, and so on and so forth, and Armageddon's coming, and watch out, and watch out for those people that are saying all that, especially the ones that are claiming they're getting visions and they're getting told this by God and Jesus and things like that. That's a giant red flag, big time. That's not how it works. It's not how something this important is going to work. So I never, sometimes I get people who suggest videos and say that this person is truly from God. They're spiritual. They have all the answers because God's given it to them, and so on and so forth. That is a big red flag, and you must avoid it like the plague, because it's going to sound really good. It's going to make some sense. And they are proclaiming they have the divine intervention telling them what to do. It's easy to believe. In fact, that's why that there's that warning, that there's going to be many false prophets out there. Many. And believe me, those especially that are claiming they're getting their message from God are those false prophets, believe me. Because they're not getting their message from God, they're getting it from that opposition force that has known humanity since the beginning of creation, knows us more than we do, and has the guile and the ability to totally deceive us in excellent ways. And it seems to be working quite well, and people are falling for it. But that's what people seem to want to hear, and that's what people want to seem to follow. But the only thing I can do is, if you're even listening this far, is watch out for them, believe me. Because I'm not saying that because I never got a visit from God or any of his angels or any of its angels or anything. I'm not saying that because that didn't happen to me. I'm saying it because that's not how it works. In fact, if I did, something did present theirself to me and try to say that they got the answers, I would not accept it. And that's, you know, and I imagine they know that, because believe me, that spirit realm and that good and bad can hear every prayer you make. They know every thought you have. So if they if they know they can't fool you, they're not going to bug you. So that's the thing, you know. I mean, take it as you will. I just had to get that off my chest, people. Its dimensions are not whatsoever involved with this. They're parallel too. It's distance that separates our reality, not dimensions. It's this creator of the human soul that perpetrated this event, not human beings, not the devil, not that spirit realm that's in opposition to all that is good. It's not them. They had nothing to do with it. Believe me. They're going to say they did. They're going to take credit. Even CERN jokes around about it, their employees, and joke around about it like it's some big joke. Uh, but of course, they have no qualms about taking credit and letting people babble on about them doing it. They have no qualms about it, so they're going to joke about it. They're going to wear breastplates at parties and things that say certain things that relate it to the Mandela effect. So we're going to see these things. And it just fuels the fire even more when they had absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. Again, because we know that CERN is in every reality. They're just, it's ironic that they're searching for what the beginning of life when the Mandela effect is already founded. And they're getting blamed for the Mandela effect. Isn't that ironic when you think about it? So with that, I thank you for listening and watching. I'll try to put up some good images as this video goes. I thank you for watching. And we'll talk at you later. Love you.